Hey everyone, it's Max Chroma with an all new video. In today's video, we're going to go over some new updates I've got for ScreenTone Eternal. This is my flagship software product, and this product can be found if you're either on my YouTube channel. You can go to this link here, shop.maxchromacolor.com. That's my web store. This product is available on sale right now, but this sale is ending soon in a little over 24 hours from this video. Normally it's $400 full price. That gets you all of my other products, and this product you get free upgrades for life. You basically get a lifetime license, and this product is an evolution of my standalone software ScreenTone, which I've been working on now for a couple of years, getting it from the point where it was just an open source project somebody had available, and you can modify it, sell it, do whatever you want with it, as long as you show that it's from an open source original program. And I've been modifying it into my dream color separation and halftoning software, as well as some other things. If you're on my website, max-chroma.com, you can find that through this main link here. And I still have the free software and other tools available. And you can access the YouTube channel, legacy videos, and the web store from here. You can also contact me by email through this email address. If you had been going to the website before and logging in with your email address or using a license from one of the software products, that's just temporarily disabled. But the thing is, you don't need to access any of that stuff. If you've purchased the products through the web store, you should have a download link. And if you don't have that or you lost it, you can just email me to ask for it. And really, this is where you could get all of the updates and the files for those products that you purchased. So if you purchase ScreenTone Eternal, it'll show you after you purchase it that you can then download all of these other products for free. Okay, so in this first quick portion of the video, I'm going to show you the new version of ScreenTone Eternal 1.5.3 beta, which is available to the people who've purchased it already or someone who buys it right now. And I'm going to show a quick way to use this with the features and how I'm automating a lot of the parts that normally would be done in the separate apps like Separation Station. But what we're going to do is launch the app, and we're going to load an image. And I'm going to choose some sort of just basic artwork image. Let me go in here, and in fact, let me work with this one. Okay, this has alpha in it. So what we're going to do is like this. We'll just use the zoom to look at it. We're going to see the image size first. So let's say we want the art to be, about like 12 inches. So we'll set the 12, but you'll see these things just react, the DPI, etc. Scroll down here. Now you've got lock physical size. Now we know it's going to be 12. We'll change the resolution. We'll say 300. Okay. And then we know that we can output a 600 DPI or 1200 DPI one using the multipliers when we export it. And so this is just going to be a quick run through where I already know how this works. So you could just follow exactly this for this type of image. And if I go to image processing, I'm going to scroll down and make sure I'm at 3 colors. And we'll do the, we don't have to change them because they're already set to red, black, and white. The alpha should be working with it. I might have to set it up differently for that, but let's just change the LPI to 45 LPI. And I think it's just that the background color, yeah, okay, the background color, I just have to change it or update it. So I can look at the shirt color that I would be having it go to, and this is not going to be one of the separation colors. So there's transparency to shirt, and this drop shadow fades out. I can just preview on a different color shirt. Okay, but let's just undo that, and I'm just going to show you some real quick stuff here. I'm going to go and turn on registration marks. So I've added these in. It's now puts reg marks around it, and what we're going to want to do is actually go back up to image size, and we need to update the desired artwork size to 12. Okay, now it shows that the real area of the total art is going to be 13.5, but we want that art size to be 12. and then it stays at the 300 DPI because I've got that physical dimension thing locked. So now let's just go to set up the underbase real quick. So I'm going to scroll down here to where I've got the view mode, separation view mode, underbase. We'll just check that to view it. And we don't want, oh, see, I need to fix that alpha thing. I'm going to have to change that. I'll just change the background to white for now so that it doesn't show up in the SEP. We'll fix that later. Okay, so we're looking at this. We're going to choose which colors we want. That's the white, and it's actually the black. I don't want that. We just want the white and the red to be part of the underbase. Okay, so there we can see the full color, separation 1, 2, 3, and the underbase. Right. Let's go back to full color view. And the other thing we can do is we could do it as channels rather than as halftones. Okay, so you can make the halftones yourself if you want, or just import them one at a time. I'll show you how we could start controlling the halftones per channel in another video when we kind of make some more updates to it. But just showing you real quick that we can take this and separate even the channels out and just get those gradient separations output, right? And then there's the combined underbase one. Okay, but we're going to go straight to halftones. We're going to want these to be that 45. Let's just update that, 45 LPI. And change this to halftones. And let's go to save and export. And I'm going to have full color, separation 1, 2, 3, and underbase. And we will do 600 DPI. So we're going to do the 2x output right here in the export, 2x output. We'll try to do a save a single canvas if possible, and we won't do the auto trigger for save. That really doesn't work when the image is large like that. But let's do prepare export for saving, and it's going to start going through and making the tiled images, stitching them together, or it's going to be ready to stitch together when we save the outputs. And this one is just to show you quick before I get into the rest of this video about the program and the updates and the whole stuff that I'm doing with this project. But you bring an image in, you set it to 3 colors. You can change the colors around, but for this one, red, white, and black was what it's set to. That's the SEP I'm doing for this. We'll do save full color to disk, go to the downloads, hit save, and we'll go through and do each of these one at a time just to save each one. Save separation 1. And you can see these going in and saving each one there. Separation 2. Go to the downloads. Okay, separation 3. And this separation 11, that's really the underbase. We'll rename that in a new version. Okay, and so there's the files. Okay, interlocking halftone SEPs, all from real-time editing, and then each separation here, saved out, ready to print. The underbase, we would need to choke that. We're going to set that up in another version, how to do it really. We're going to keep improving upon the app. Overall, this thing is only about 1% to the app that I want it to be, but I'm continuing to update it, giving those releases to the users, and going to make more and more videos as it gets pretty much up to par to what I want it to be and start showing for printing. But let me open up Photoshop real quick and just show you that those sizes should reflect the correct size that we wanted. And we'll look at the image sizing I had set up here. We had it to be 12 inches for the art, 13.55, and we should have a 600 DPI output. So let's go ahead like this. Load it in, and if I check image size, it says 600, 13.55. So if I was to crop it down to the 12. We'll just say canvas size right here. 12 means it's going to cut in right there, and it shouldn't cut into the art. It should be exactly what the original image was, or the artwork area. So there you go. That's basically the quick run through of how the app is coming along to try to combine a lot of things together. And this is very complex right now. The interface is really kind of a mess. It's because I'm continuing to learn and add things at a very fast pace, and sort of like function before form. I want to put all the functionality in before I start to fix the form of it all and make it, a little bit simpler and easier to use. But the rest of this video will now go into a lot of that stuff of, where you can start with the original source program, the open source beginning of the app, and just how I'm working on all this stuff lately. But this part I wanted to sort of put in the beginning of the video, actually, to show you a quick run through, and then you can continue watching the rest if you want to see more about it. So focusing on the update to ScreenTone Eternal and what the whole thing is about here, what I'm going to show you is a little bit of the workflow that I'm doing and how and why I'm doing this stuff. Now, the thing is the original program, in fact, I'll just access it through one of these applets here, and these HTML files now run offline on your own computer, just in a browser. They usually have a link at the top that says original source. So the original source is actually this open source project called Dithermark, and what you could do is download the source and you could start editing it and modifying it yourself. It's an online web app available here at this link, app.dithermark.com. And so you could get familiar with the original way that this program worked, and you could just load an image file. I'm going to go here and just pick some sort of random test image. We could just do this. This is fine. So it takes an image in, and then it dithers it, or converts it to a type of halftoning, sort of like pixel art. And you can do things like change the color count with this slider. So you can go from 1 to 2. You can start at 2 colors. Obviously, it'd have to be 2 color to get anything to show up. And you can increase it and see it in real time, meaning it's interactive. When you move the slider, it interacts, changes the number of colors. And you can do things like changing the image size to be more or less pixelated. So you can have it be more of a pixel art effect or less of a pixel art effect. And usually to increase the size of it, you'd have to load a larger sized image. If we just go to this open tab and look at this algorithm thing. So these are the different, this threshold closest color ones, kind of like a spot color effect. These are like the different ways that it'll dither the image. Random just does random sort of noise. And you can look through this app and see how it does all this stuff. And there is a halftone one in here. If I scroll down, I think it's all the way at the bottom of this list. Halftone. And what it does is it just uses a slightly, it's a bit more pixelated of a halftone than what I wanted to use for screen printing. So I saw the potentials in this app. I saw that it was already close to some of the things I wanted to have in my dream color separation software ideas, where I wanted the user to be able to change the color count and the colors. You can change the colors around in real time. Okay, so you can see it change how what you'd call the separations or the halftoning would work. And it's sort of separating it a bit from what's in the art. If you chose like a red color here, it would show up more in those areas where there is red, right? If we picked like a sort of flesh tone color, it would show up more in these areas of the skin. And the same with like the dark or background colors. So it's partially using these algorithms to separate the image, find the closest colors that would work for these colors in your set, and then it's splitting it into that half-toned pattern. Now, one thing in this app that it doesn't have is just showing you the gradient effect of that, or like what we would normally call color separations or channels in the screen printing community. But with this app, it had enough of the foundation that I said, this is what I want to put all of my previous work, over the years of my YouTube channel. A lot of this stuff focuses on what you can do in Photoshop with color and how to extract it and work with color to do separations and halftoning, usually for the screen printing process, but it can apply to a lot of things, just editing images, changing colors in images. And so what I'm doing with the ScreenTone project is trying to take this open sourced program and modify it and convert it into what I want it to be, which is like a lot more advanced than what this currently does. But you can export an image from this, save that file that has been converted from the original into this format. And you can also, let me just go to the downloads. We'll look at that. Okay, but then you see it's pixelated. The halftones, if you were to be screen printing it, they're what you'd call kind of chunky. They're low res pixelated halftone dots. And you can, like I said, maybe load a larger image. So I loaded this one, which was only about 800 by 692 pixels. Let's load this one that's 3400 by 3000. And then we'll do export, save. We'll go and look at this one. And so this one's got the dots being a little bit better. They're still basically just as pixelated, but the dots are smaller. Okay, so you're getting more of the image to render as smaller halftone dots. And even using one of my free applications off the website here, if we go to this separation station. Now, I removed them from being run online because you don't have to run them on the website at all. You can just download this file. We'll go to the downloads, open it up, and if we choose file and load this image here, it should show up after just a little bit of processing time, the 3 colors that are in the image, like that. And we can just download the separations. Maybe you can choose the colors you want in the separations with these checkboxes. You can choose the which colors you want to be underbased. So I'm going to uncheck the black. I'll have the light flesh color and the red be underbased. Choke by 1 pixels. It'll add registration marks. And we can just do download all separations. And so I created, we'll say allow. So I created this separation station app really as a helper to work with Dithermark or with the original versions I had of ScreenTone, where I started modifying Dithermark to have the higher resolution halftones, different halftone patterns, maybe changing the angle and other stuff like that. But you can just for free with the open source app start to get into some of this stuff and see how it's working. And so here are these separations, but like I said, these dots are, you could try to burn these to screens. You might get some of it to show up. It's just not what people would usually call like a really perfect halftone dot or a clean high res halftone dot, and you can't really choose the things like the angles or the it's sort of at a 45-degree angle by default here, and you can't really change what you call like the LPI, the lines per inch. You could do it by loading a smaller or larger image. And so I saw the potential in this app and all the stuff I had been doing over the years and wanted to do and sort of worked on in other types of programs. But I was like, can I get into this complex program and start modifying it on my own? And so that's what I've been working on over the past couple of years with a lot of help from AI. But AI can't really just give you the color separations or do these kind of things. And AI isn't an interactive program, right? You can't just in real time change things around. You have to ask the AI again and again what you want it to do. So I started trying to learn through the coding and learn what I could about coding, the stuff I needed to know to make all the modifications I wanted to do. So skipping over a lot of that stuff, maybe I'll just show you one of the first versions. This is still an evolved version of ScreenTone, but I called it ScreenTone Pro 9001. And you could load an image, same sort of thing. We'll go to this. We'll just use that same image. Okay. And actually, this one is set to not work with the image if it's too large. or actually it's just set to full color mode when you first start off. Okay, it's in original with filters, so this would just be the original image, and you could do things like changing the brightness, you know, make it darker, brighter. You could do the contrast, all these sort of similar things you could do in the Dithermark application, but I was opening it up, letting it do stuff that it wouldn't do. It would normally always dither the image, right? And so we can go into different things like the spot colors. We could also go to these separations where I had it like monotone, duotone, tritone. And these ones would work to color separate the image or recolor it. And you could also try to view each of the separations and go and download them one at a time. But I also had the thing where you could convert it to the half-toned type of separations. And so you'd have to scroll down here to other parts of the list, and I had it set up, and it was sort of complicated at first because you'd have to build all these algorithms in and set the different angles of the halftone patterns. Like, I didn't know how to change the angle yet or do some of that stuff. So the evolution of this project was me really having to learn how to edit it and modify it and get it to work, plus doing all the other things I wanted it to do and learn how to put those things in. A lot of the stuff I already knew based on, you know, my work with the Photoshop, doing actions, doing all this color theory stuff, my history and graphic design for a couple of decades, color separation for screen printing for about the same amount of time, and doing color separation software on the level of these actions and plugins. But I wanted something that was way beyond what Photoshop could do and do it real time and do things that Photoshop can't even do, like these tricolor separations or custom colors. You know, and you could go and change things in real time still. It's just a little bit slower with some of these algorithms I had because of how they work. So I was still learning how to optimize it and make it better. But if we went to one of these, let's say round medium 45 LPI, you could get the halftone dots, or let me even show the elliptical dots. Usually people like to use an ellipse dot and 22.5 degrees. So I had to make a separate pattern at 22.5, a separate one at 45 degrees, another one at 0, just to get it to sort of work the way I was envisioning it. But a lot of this is what I'm showing you, a continual evolution project where what it started as, I just keep working on it and keep making it better and better over time. And that's the whole reason for it being lifetime updates. You pay once and you get the updates every time they come out. And so part of this video is showing some of the new updates. But in the previous version for ScreenTone Pro, you could do things like this halftone contrast. It took me a while just to learn how to make a slider that would work with some of these things. So you could increase the contrast of the halftone patterns in real time, and you could have them do these types of separations where it still work based on how many colors you had in it. So if I have 4 colors, okay, and let's just zoom out a bit. I don't know if this, I think this one has it where you could click on the color and then pick over here in real time from the original. So you could do that. We could pick like this red color. Okay. And it wasn't really doing like the separation algorithms the way I wanted, but you could use this contrast slider to get it to show up sort of like this. And then you could go and export it. We just do save PNG. And so you can see there wasn't a lot of control over the image size, just this percentage scale. And if I wanted to do the, if I wanted to change the LPI of the halftones, like the size of them, it was only through this larger or smaller thing. Larger dots, these ones would be smaller. Let me go down to that 22.5. We'll save that one and we'll compare these. Okay, but I was able to get cleaner halftone dots to come out. And if you increase the resolution of the image, so let's try that a bit. You could do, maybe try 150%, maybe 200%. I don't think that'll work because usually go over a certain size and it would start to fail. It wouldn't process, right? So that's certain things I had to learn. How am I going to get around that as well, right? Let me just go to a percentage that works. Okay, so we export this, save it. And so this one's about almost 6,000 pixels. And there, the dots look cleaner. Okay, but you couldn't really say, wait, well, what halftone LPI is that? And you could, but you still could take the images, bring them over to that separation station, and get them to output as individual SEPs. So we'll go to downloads, open this up. And it's like, you know, maybe we don't need this gray background. Maybe we're printing on a shirt like that. We'll wait for it to process and show the different colors. And so, you know, it was this multi-step process that I was figuring, okay, if we do it this way, at least you can get the SEPs out and you can print them and work with them. I'll uncheck this from printing. We don't want that separation. And we will just underbase all these and choke it. So we would just do this, say download all separations. And I'm going to look at the downloads. And we'll see it start processing. We'll do allow multiple files. And there you can see, and it puts these registration marks in, which really helps when you're doing this kind of work. Screen printing, you're going to put these on the films, and you're going to be able to line them up when you're on press. Okay, and it does this interlocking halftone thing, which is what I've been all about for over 15 years, really. I've been doing this kind of stuff. In printing, it comes out with a lot better prints at times, and there's so much cool stuff you can do with it. But that's just a background of the project up to now, and how I was continuing to make newer and newer versions. And that's, again, why I set it up to be lifetime upgrades. So, and then I made some free versions of it. So I made a free spot color version and a free duotone version for you guys to use and try out. But these aren't even as updated as the latest one I'm going to show pretty much right now. So in the newest version here, I've actually got it up to version 1.5.3, so we're almost to version 2 of ScreenTone Eternal. And in the ScreenTone Eternal project, you will get a whole bunch of these beta experimental updates that I've been trying out, but a lot of the stuff is just, it's not fully working. It's only me testing things out, and that's why it's still called a beta for the updates here. But let's look at this version 1.3. So you can just see, based on what I showed you in the first part of this video, and then just with that dither mark, and then with this ScreenTone 9001, now you can see with this ScreenTone Eternal 1.5.3, a lot of the things I'm trying to do to make it fully work for professional cases or just the artistic uses. But, you know, it's my dream application I'm making primarily for myself to do the screen print projects I do. And I want to share how I'm doing it and give all those other free things along the way. But this one is where I have like all the latest stuff at. And if I go and load an image, like we'll just use that test image again, and I'll do the smaller one. Well, we'll do this full size one. You'll see sort of how it works in working with the image size. So now when it loads in, you'll see the source image next to this one. If you have show original image, if you uncheck it, you're just going to see this. Okay. And what we can do is use this slider to zoom in and out. But for the Dithermark app, I found it a bit frustrating when I would want to go in and look at the image closer up and sort of navigate around in it. I would have to like work with the zoom slider and with the scroll bars that would show up. And so it took me a while just to figure out how to do some interesting type of zooming and panning on the image. If I uncheck show original image and I just look at this, okay, now you can zoom it in a certain way and get it to show. Let me just scroll back a bit. So I'm looking at the whole thing inside this area, right? This stuff on the side, this sidebar is going to control things about the view. And in normal mode, it's in pan and zoom. So if I'm over this and I start left clicking, okay, you're going to see it move around. But you see how it's a little bit slow. That's because this is at the 3000 pixel size. This is at the full size, and we can just do reset view, double click that. So one of the purposes that I'm doing with all this real-time control stuff is you would work at a smaller resolution mode, and you would output it at higher resolutions when you're done editing. So let me show you that it'll work a lot faster just doing the pan and zooming thing if you don't have the image at this full size that you're working at, right? And to change it around, that took a lot of work just in figuring out, and this is still evolving. So this whole load and size image tab is now a lot more stuff. If we scroll down, we can see that we've got some lock modes, and what it's normally doing is locking the pixel dimensions. So DPI or inches will adjust relative to changes. So if I know what inch size I want to do with this, I would now put 10 inches, let's say, and we'll see the DPI update to 347 automatically based on that width. And so if we want to change it, we're going to do lock physical size. So we want to keep the 10 inches we set. Now we want to change the DPI. So here's where I'm suggesting you actually want to work in a lower DPI. So we do like 150 DPI. And then if I left click, you see it moves faster, right? Let's reset, and I'll show you even lower. We'll do 100 DPI. There you go. And what we can do is now zoom in with the scroll wheel. And so this is the point, is you can actually zoom into this, and in this normal operation, the dots are going to be perfectly clean no matter how far you zoom in. They're almost like vector halftones, but they're not really vector in the output. So they're just infinite resolution basically. And we'll reset the view. And one of the things is like this preview, when it tends to look like all moire, you'd call it, where the halftones looks like the halftones are messed up, but they're not really messed up. You know, you zoom in, you can see that resolve itself. Well, this is something I had to work on to make just the preview something we could work better with. So it's, ignore this checkbox for now, but we're going to look at adding a little bit of blur onto the preview. And now you can see that sort of cleans it up a bit, right? The moire will show up at different halftone, different zoom scales, but also it can sort of have to do with the zoom you're at with that, right? So the cool part I'm doing is trying to set it up that, you know, you can look at it in these halftones and move around the image now a lot easier. It stays stuck. You don't have to worry about the scroll bars and the zooming thing. You just zoom like this, okay? And the previewing, like we can blur this, right, to see what those halftones would do, but you just have to change it when you zoom back out. Okay, so let's reset to default and take that blur off. All right. And you can uncheck the preview smoothing. That one doesn't affect the output. The blur will affect the output, but you can see how it looks a lot worse when you don't have the smoothing on. So I'm still working on different ways I might have the smoothing really get rid of all that, but you don't have to view it as the halftones. You can go down to this button and view it as the channels. Okay, and so now it's just showing without any halftoning. And let's just go down to so I've added all these different controls because I learned how to do it, and so I'm going a little bit crazy on adding everything in. Then we're going to design the app to be easier to use, but first I'm exploring all the possibilities of what I can do. And when it's in this, when you first launch it, it's going to be in a 3-color mode. So the palette colors don't really affect it until you remove them, or actually now they don't really affect much of it except for a certain specific mode. But if I set them to 3 and I go down here, there's a thing, separation colors. We're in this 3-color with alpha mode. And so you can change this around, but I'm just going to focus on the 3-color mode right now. And it's when you switch to halftones or channels, it's still in the 3-color mode. I can go down and look at an individual separation if I want. And these are where the colors are actually being used now. But if I want to, let's say, try to detect the colors or change them in real time, I can go and start with this set palette colors automatically thing, and I can pick an algorithm. Usually it defaults to the RGB one. Just do auto detect, and now it's detected some colors in there. And you can choose different modes. You can do this uniform, hue wheel, channels Q, Artiquant. So these are just different algorithms that are in the Dithermark program. So these ones I carried over, and they look at the original image and try to find the best colors rather than you having to manually pick them. But it's not usually going to work perfectly unless the art has some obvious colors that should be used. But let's just go back to the Artiquant one, or RGB wide. And going through, again, let's see the halftones or channels. And the thing is you can view the separation. So there's these buttons down here, separation view mode, and you can go and look at separation 1, 2, or 3. And you can go to the halftones as well in each of those, right? But the other stuff that I was doing was trying to take those things that were in, and actually let me show you how it works with an image where we pick the colors from the original. A lot of this stuff is based on, I would design images that you could not separate in Photoshop. I was like, well, you know, through all the expertise and professional industry out there, why is there's no possible way to automatically or even manually color separate this image into 3 colors perfectly? No matter what you do in Photoshop, you're never going to get it. No matter what you do in other applications, it's not going to work. So I was like, how is the industry so professional but doesn't have solutions for these things? And it's because it was looked at as more of an art form for a long time, and that you couldn't automatically do it or something like that. But that's the problem, is that because they weren't trying to automatically do it, it wasn't possible. You had to have the automation of the computer algorithms figure those things out for you, because you can't possibly go in with like a color range tool and manually just pull one color if you don't know what the other colors are and you don't use that in the process. So the tools in Photoshop don't even work for it. So this is why I build these applications. It was like a problem to be solved for over a decade or more for me, and I just kept working and working at it and saying, no, I know it's possible, and it's just we're not approaching it the right way. So if I have this one loaded in, and let's say it's, let me scroll down here, do the lock pixel dimensions. Maybe I want this to do 11 inches, and I can see what the outputs will be when I output higher res versions. So I have it automatically doing this now. If you look at these tiled resolution outputs, we can scroll down here, lock the physical size. I can maybe change this to 75, like that. It's going to automatically pick the scale percentage now. And you don't really want to change this anymore like this. You want to let it automatically pick it for that. And so you can see I would be able to output 150 DPI, 300 or 600 DPI versions, but really this is like a working mode. I might keep it in 75 while I'm working on it. So it just moves and operates much faster. It's more interactive that way. And that's sort of the purpose of doing things this way. If I go to the image processing settings, I'm going to go down and keep this palette colors at 3. And then I'm going to do auto detect at this RGB, and this one picks the right colors and separates it correctly. So if we scroll down and flip to halftones or channels, okay, and we can zoom in, so you see that it really doesn't matter that you're in a lower res version like this. You can zoom in fast and you can move around, okay, and you could even be like, well, all right, I want to look at this location, and I've got it so you can save the view. Double click that. I could scroll out and maybe do this one, save that as view number 2, and we could zoom in and maybe we're looking at this part of the image. We're going to look real close at some of these dots, right, for view 3. So save view 3. Now I can just do load view 1, load view 2, load view 3, right? Reset view. Again, I'm skipping around a lot of this stuff just to show you guys a sneak peek at all the different things I've been changing and adding and improving with the app. And again, if we think that this view looks a little bit sort of fuzzy or messed up, if I uncheck it, it's going to look worse. But if I put on this blur, you'll see it looks a little bit better. We're trying to get it to be like it looks like the original image, right? And if you think that, this is still kind of messed up, you view the original and now you got to zoom out again. And so I found a way to not even have to do that. If I'm looking at the image and I just have it squared right there. You could try this fit thing. It doesn't always work perfectly. So the other thing I said is that, we could probably look at both of them at the same time if we want. Okay. And that's through this thing I added. And so I'm sort of working out all the different ideas that I want to have in the app. And then I'll try to make the interface easier and better and start training a lot more on. I'm not going to do a lot of tutorials on this until it's pretty much at a point where I can start going right from this and then take it out to print and show you guys the whole workflow in a real simple way. But I was like, can't I just do one of these wiper things where it's like you can look at both? So yeah, I've got this slider that now lets us look at, both the half-toned part and the original image part. Okay, so I can do this, and I was like, well, what if you don't like the way that it's like this? We could even have the angle of that thing change. You can change the angle of where that is comparing. So it's a comparison between the half-toned or separated one and the original, right? And you can still do things like look at a specific separation, right? So we can look at separation 1 compared from the original and see how it's separating. And this stuff is also because I want to teach these things at a level that it would be really hard to teach it in Photoshop, because you'd have to sort of reinvent you have to go back and forth and really do a lot of different stuff. This whole app is basically going to become my version of a graphics application I'm making, and it's not just going to always do this. So again, that's the lifetime upgrade thing. I'm just was dissatisfied over decades of using Photoshop and them not improving it on some of these core levels. So I'm going to reset this to 180 and reset that to 2. And, another idea I had was, well, if we're looking at this separation mode, reset to default, the full color one, we can view 1, 2, 3. And this color replacer one is now set, so it's going to automatically set the replacers, but we'll look at the color replacer stuff at a different time. So I was like, well, what if I want to look at all the steps at the same time? So I figured out how to do that too. Multi-step view mode. And now you can look at multiple versions of you can see the original full color. This one's the replacer color one. And we really don't need 3x3. We're going to do 3x2. So you can change the rows and the columns around. And so look at it like that. And the thing is, we can go back to this channels mode. And so we're seeing the separations. Okay, I can actually move this up a bit, make it easier to see the whole thing. Okay, and if we go to the color buttons here, so here's where I'm going to show like all the colors. We're going to have it be reactive to like which mode we're in. You only see the 3 colors that it is. And I figured, all right, the replacer thing, I'm going to have to show about it, and you can see it showing up there. So the colors are being separated from the original, and we can change them. So this color 2 is still the orange being separated from it. We can change what it's showing up as. Okay, so you can see in the replacer one, I can actually adjust that color and see it update. Okay, and we could change all 3 of the colors as their replacers. You could have each of these be 3 different colors. And so it's even just a way to recolor an image into new colors, but have it work in a way that is calculating the real conversions between the different colors. And then it's just replacing those channels. It's like taking the channels and recoloring them with new inks. Okay, and in each of these separations, again, I can change this around. So let me look at that color 2, and if I check the color picker, what it's going to do is, and here's the other thing, is before you'd have to look at the original image to have the color picker work. Here I'm going to make sure when I check this color picker, and again, I might have to go and figure out how to click this and then make this automatically click, right? And so now that I've got that in color picker mode, I can just left click over here and see the orange separation change, right? If I click in this triangle and I move it, okay, so you can see the color seps change in real time according to what color I'm trying to separate. All right, and there's just, this to me is one of the coolest things and very useful. It's all about your working like in a certain work mode and trying to make changes and edits to your separations. And then you can go and export and convert to halftones and save it all out, right? And so just showing you, how this would work. And it still is, what I'm saying, a work in progress. I'm working on it every day, really. So I'll show you a little bit more of this stuff. Let's just uncheck that. Let's reset the view. Okay. Actually, we're going to turn off the multi-sep mode right here. And we'll do reset view and just maybe do fit and back to pan zoom mode. Now, one of the things that was being done in the separation station was the splitting of the output and the registration marks. So another thing I've been working on recently is, and the underbase. I don't have the choked underbases totally working yet, but we can do registration marks now. And this took a little while to figure out and get it to be accounted for. So here's another thing is if we're going to add registration marks to the image, it's kind of like this image size of 11 is going to be changed. So this is just recent stuff I'm doing, but we go and add the registration marks with this checkbox here, registration mark options, add registration marks. And these are the ones I usually like to have. Okay. And what I do is just default it to this type of shape and in that position. You can go in and change that. So advanced registration controls, you can turn on and off each of these types of marks. So there's ones on the left, center right, like this. We can do the bottom. We can have corners. So there's corner. Really, these checkboxes should be showing up more correctly as to what they are. So when it's off like that. So when the app first opens, I think I got to make sure those are set correctly. And the center registration mark duplicates, that's where those ones. So you could have, let's say, turn off the corner ones and the left and right. You could have just the top registration mark in the center if you want. You could have the top and the center bottom, okay? The duplicate ones I usually have set up. I like to have them that way for a specific reason. It just helps to have it. Usually what you're going to do is print on a printer where you can't print this extra space. You want to get the image as wide as you can go. So just over the years, that's usually how we would put reg marks on them. Put them up at the top, have the corner ones be not all the way in the corner, but be kind of like extended a bit. And then it helps you when you're registering. You can have this one and this one match up, and it helps in the printing to get them. With the center ones, you can still do it, but I usually found these ones to be more helpful. So that's what I defaulted to and don't have the advanced controls on. You can change the size of this whole border area with those. So let me go ahead and turn that on. All of these scales are things to do with the reg marks, but we're not going to go into all that crazy stuff just yet. I'm just showing you that essentially it's still customizable with the style of the reg marks, okay? And I might even make a checkbox that you don't have to have the circle thing and the lines, right? But that's just the way I've got it for now. So we'll uncheck the advanced controls. But you can change the colors of the positives and negatives in the separations. That would be the reg mark color and the background color here. But when you're looking at a separation, you actually can change what color the reg marks and seps output as. Okay, we'll just put that back to black. Same with this. All right, put that back to white. But you can also flip these around to do negatives instead. So if you want your actual film thing to be negative, and you see right there, I got to fix that because when you switch to this, you would probably want everything to flip around, not just that, right? So you would actually want, so really I might not have the positive negatives checkbox and just have it flip those around. That's probably the better way I should do it. Take the white and black setting, and when I flip positive negative, we would just flip these around. So that would be white and this would be black. There we go. Now the whole thing's a negative. And so you see right there, this is when I'm building and working on it, I would go and say, okay, wait, that I need to fix when I do positive negatives checkbox. And I would go into the code. So here's the app in this version. And I'll find out where I've got that. It's in this GUI controls file that I set up. And this checkbox, what I'm going to do is instead of having this checkbox change something in the graphics shader where it actually processes it, I'll just have it switch the colors around in this setup. So where it's got the positive and negative color thing. But again, this is really complex stuff for me to show you and get into, but it's things I want to teach as well, not just how to do the color steps with the app, but how to work on an app like this and make it do some of these things. So I would go in and sort of set it so that the colors for the positive and negative colors, okay, which is really called border color and reg mark color, I'll have it so positive or negatives mode flips these two values around, and then it'll probably work the right way all the time. Okay. Rather than, I think I had it working before I put the reg marks thing in. I had it working when you just view them without reg marks. So if I turn off the registration marks, maybe I do multi-set mode, the positive negatives button does work there, but when I added reg marks, didn't change how it was working. So it's like another thing. That's part of the process when you're building something like this. You find all sorts of things you do, you make a change, and then you got to fix the other thing that you broke. But basically, it's all a work in progress, but very useful even in its current versions. And that's why I released it even before having like the perfect app or something. Right? I wanted something that really already worked the way I wanted. Or I wanted something to give people something they could start making prints with, even if it wasn't to the level that I wanted the app to be. Okay, and we're just going to go. All right. So let's go up and look at the thing with the reg marks that I was showing. Let me scroll back down. I know how to move around this app now, but it still is like always changing. So even when I get good at some part of it, it's going to change. And this is all stuff that I guess what I could say is nobody is more frustrated at the way this thing is set up than me right now. But it's all stuff that I'm adding because I'm learning how, and then I'm editing in, and then I'm testing it all the time, and then I'll sort of make the design. Like I might want the underbase checkboxes to be next to the colors, and I might want dividers between each of these color set things. And we'll even have stuff like changing the halftone angle, the halftone size in real time for each color. Right now in this 3-color mode, it works on all of them. But let's look at the reg marks thing where I was saying, what about the size? So you add reg marks in, and now it's not really adding it around the image. Let's go to the image size. It's doing it to this 11-inch area. So what we want to do is actually tell it that our desired artwork width, these things change now to say artwork inside the reg marks, total area. We have to first enter this number, and that's another thing I'm going to improve is we should do it automatically. I'm just working on that. So if I put 11 in, now we'll see that the total area updates to show that it's really going to be 12.42 with the around the artwork, and the artwork inside the reg marks can now be 11. And we would just have to then output the image like this. And we want to then, go higher than probably 150, 300, or even 600. But we'll keep this in editing mode until we do that. Go to image processing. I'm going to go down here and change it back to halftones. And I'm also going to show you a little bit about setting up the underbase for this. So if I look at the underbase view, nothing is there yet. That's because I need to check these checkboxes. So maybe I want color 1 and 2 to be underbased. Or if I look at the full color again, maybe I don't want the dark color. I just want the 2 light, the orange and the gray to be underbased. Oops, it zoomed in. You can always reset the view if you accidentally move the scroll wheel. And you can avoid that by just setting that to color picker mode. Let's do let's go ahead and look back at the underbase, and we're going to do colors 1 and 3. Nope. 2 and 3. There we go. We want these ones in the underbase. So let's go look at full color again. And so again, the workflow would be you load an image in, and we're going to ignore this section for now, but I have been working on presets and the ability to basically save a preset and, make changes and then update the preset again. Everything is real time, so it's all going to be like you can save your work. All the settings would be saved to a preset. This stuff isn't fully working yet, but we should also be able to export a project file and import a project file where it would have the image and all the settings saved. So this stuff is still work in progress, but I've got it partially working, and that's how we're going to make it so that all these settings don't have to be stuff you really got to go in and set when you first load an image. I'm going to preset all sorts of different separation modes and options and then make it really easy. You just, pick a preset, save your work out, import it again, and it's all right there. And again, the point is that you couldn't do this stuff even with all the actions I had in Photoshop. It's like I built out what you'd say every possible way I could go about it, but then the action sets became really complex. You'd have to go through different steps just to get another change to happen, like changing the size of the image, or let's say you want to change the contrast of the original, the brightness of the original, saturation. You'd have to go and redo that, then run the actions again, brightness, etc. So all this is basically about making a graphics app work the way I want it to work, and so you can change all these things in real time and have your color separations ready to just output, right? So let me scroll down and show you the part about, so we got the underbase set up, we got the reg mark set up, we have the size for what we want. I want it to be 11 inches inside there. It's going to end up being 12.42 when it outputs. And with this current resolution at 75, that's just our working resolution. But let me show you a little bit more about things like changing stuff. So the halftone LPI, this one's at 36. Okay, you can change the LPI in real time. Okay, maybe I'll go back to pan zoom and show you. Okay, and this is where the colors interlock, right? We'll do LPI, higher, lower. We can change the angle of the dots all in real time. We can change the shape from round dots, ellipse, diamond, cross. These ones are all going to work relatively the same, like it shouldn't change the seps. The circle one is off. It makes them a little too contrasted. Triangle. This was something I had sort of designed myself, figured out how to do these triangle halftones. They're pretty cool because they actually have 3 angles all at the same time. And usually I set it to about 15 or 45. Should produce the same thing, where the angles shouldn't really line up with any of the mesh. Okay, but we can change that LPI in real time. The LPI for the triangle is not going to really match correctly. So let's say we're just sticking with professional elliptical dots for screen print. We want to set the LPI to 45. We want to maybe change the angle to 22.5. And let's do reset default view. And so now we can be confident, okay, that the artwork, we want it to be 11. The total of this is going to be that. And we can be confident that the 45 LPI is going to reflect that when we output it. So if we just go and look at the export section now, this is where I've got a lot of stuff going to make it automatic. So we do full color, separation 1, 2, 3, and the underbase. And we can let it clear some of the effects. You wouldn't want to have the blurring effect on there when you're outputting it. And so we can have it automatically do some of that stuff, like if you have the wiper position in there, etc. But this auto trigger save for testing, prepare and save files, this will try to do it all automatically. Now the problem is it will work, but this is because it's in low res version. So prepare and save, it'll ask us to allow multiple files to save. We'll go here to download, and there it is. It saved each of those images. So it's like now we don't need to go to the separation station app. We can do this all within here and get these reg marks to show up. But you see pixelated dots. That's because we're in that working mode of only 75 DPI. Well, now that I'm done editing things around, okay, and I might need to make this reset to full color. It does it when you save, but for viewing, we'll just look at the full color mode. So we want to output higher res, and I've got it already set up for a 2x DPI, 150, 4x DPI, and these are these tiled modes. I had some other versions where I was like, I know I can get it to output higher res if I tile the thing together, but how do I stitch it automatically? And in one of the other videos, I was showing that just a partial update where you could do it with a separate app, and you don't need to use that anymore. It's all going to happen all in the same app here. And so what I'm going to do is actually change this to 150 DPI. And now you can see we get 300, 600, or 1200. And I could even try to go higher, 300 DPI. So 300 DPI for this working version means I could do a 2x output at 600 or 4x at 1200, even an 8x output at 2400 DPI. And here's where we're getting to things that a lot of RIP software can't even do the halftones that clean, okay? And so you can do better halftones than some RIP software or other separation software. But let's just maybe do 1200. And it's pushing this web development stuff probably to its limits, but the reason I'm doing this is because you don't have to do anything to install the app. It's just running locally on your own system. You don't have to be connected online, and it just loads in the browser. And so it works for Mac, PC, Linux, etc., without having to have it be like a whole executable installation. And so if we go to this and we have these checked out, what we're going to do is not going to really be able to do the auto trigger thing. There's stuff where it won't let you run a bunch of automations and it automatically picks the save button. But let's just go ahead and look at the 2x output, and we'll do prepare for export for saving. So then you'll have to click these after. But let's just do it, and we'll show you how this works. So what it starts to do is goes through, looks at each of these portions in the higher resolution, saves them, and sort of saves them internally in the browser without eating up a bunch of, like it sort of uses up memory, but it's within a certain limit. And what it'll do is give us each of these so we can go ahead and save them after it's prepared each one. So it's going through and preparing each of these modes and then saving it. Or it's preparing it so that we can save it ourselves. It won't do it automatically because it's taking too much time between this to when it has them ready. But you go right here and you could just do save all prepared modes. Or you still might need to do them one at a time. Let me try that. Save all prepared. Download. Let me hit OK. And it should go through and trigger each one. Actually, it's combining them together. So it's doing this part where this is the stitching part, stitching them together. And this is where it might not work to trigger each one correctly because it takes a little bit too much time in between each of these saves. See that error right here, but that's okay. We just go and save each one manually. So click Save Separation to disk, like this. And if we look at the downloads, here's where you can see the higher resolution one. Now this is 7452, and that's the 600 DPI one. And we'll do Save Separation 3, just like that. And it gives us a little bit of progress indicator, and Save Separation 11, which is really the underbase. We're going to rename that. But it's like I build up this whole list of the things I need to change, keep going, working on it. Usually every day I'm working on adding more features to this, testing them out, and trying to get another version out as beta. And we're getting closer to what would be a 2.0 version that will really have a lot of stuff cleaned up in the interface and a lot easier to use. But I'm just showing the progress, sort of sneak peek behind the scenes of what the beta updates are doing now, how to make it even easier between everything. But let's go and see right here. We'll go to look at the full color view. Okay. And, you know, maybe I'll just show you, even with one just export of the full color, just how far we can push this. And let me just look at this. So you can see here was this one, the 1x at really low res, right? 75 DPI. Then we went to 300 and output 2x. So this is actually 600 DPI. So these dots are cleaner, but at 45 LPI, 600 DPI dots are still not really clean, okay? But it's all about what you burn on the screen. And when you print it, it's usually a different thing altogether. You go and put it on a screen and emulsion and mesh, print it. The dots aren't going to be perfectly clean. But some people really demand a very high resolution output. So here's where we can go to 4x. And if we look at this again, that means we're going to get 1200 DPI output. And we'll do the prepare for saving. So first we got to prepare it so it goes through. And this time it's doing 16 tiles. So it's go through each of these, the image, and save each of these internally as these tiles, and then stitch them together when it's done. We'll have to basically pick the part that stitches them together. So there it's saved the 16 tiles. Now we'll do save full color to disk. And with the browser memory, it's not always going to work where I have it set to this single canvas mode. But let's just try it out. And we'll see the progress here. So the output method usually would be PNG file, single canvas, if it's possible. And so it's, it's going to work around things. If it doesn't work, we'll do the other option. See how we could say wait for the processing to finish. You can see it's sort of trying to put the file together here. And usually this one works. Depends on your system. Okay, so there we go. We got the almost 15,000 by 15,000 pixels. And this is 1200 DPI. Okay, dots are cleaner. Okay. And so you can output each of the separations that way. The underbase thing, we're going to work on how to just get the choke part to happen correctly, so you don't have to do any of this in the other app anymore. And then, if you want to verify it, open it up in, GIMP or in Photoshop. But really, the whole thing for me is I'm working away from needing Photoshop for anything. We don't need Photoshop anymore for this stuff. So, but I'll just do it to show you guys the file, the image, and the size that it's at. And we'll double check it. We'll test and see, did it really come out 11 inches for the art? Okay, so let's just open this file. And it could be off. I really got to go through, do a lot of testing. But let's see, image. And this took me a little bit of recent work to do, where it would save the, if you save as the PNG file, it should be able to put the resolution in. So now it opens up at the right size and the right resolution. And if I was to now double check, let me do image duplicate. Okay, I'm going to crop out or cut out these reg marks. And then I'll use, this is just a trick, use magic wand around the outside, 0 tolerance, contiguous, invert the selection, and then C to crop it. And image size, there we go, 10.998. So it's pretty close, or it's probably just a rounding error of 11 inches for the artwork. Okay, so this is stuff I really just finished up in the past week or two, trying to make some of these things easier for the users who have the program already, and to start showing it a bit more in videos, how it's coming along, the things that we can do automatically now. Adding the reg marks was really important for me to get in there, having it so we can keep track of the sizing we want, and automatically stitch the tiles together when we do those high-res outputs. And if you want to see pushing it to the limit here, it would take too long for the video. It would take a while to show in the video, but I could always pause it and show you when it's done. So let me just try to put this up to 600, if it'll work. 600 DPI. It's probably not going to work in this version. Yeah, okay. We'll try a little bit lower than 300, or lower than 600. Let's try, that's already at 248. Let's try 500 DPI for this view right here. No, 400 maybe. Okay, yeah, so if you get this one to work, that means you can go through the tiles. Okay, so we're at 400 DPI, meaning I can get about 3200 if I try the 8X version, which is 64 tiles all stitched together. It'll be about 40,000 pixels. So let me go and go to the save and export. And here's where if I choose 8X and I try the PNG file, it's going to be way too large. I already know it's not going to work that way. So you have to choose PPM file and sliced output stream to file. But then it does work. So what we're going to do is prepare the export. And even this part will take a little time to go through and look at each of the 64 tiles. So tile 1, 2, 3, and it's saving them internally, and then we're gonna have it stitch them all together to the output. And this is all happening in the browser. So it's the stuff that is really like extreme, but it's the reason why I do the browser is we don't have to have a whole program we try to install on the desktop, and then whether it works for PC or Mac, etc. The other thing you need to keep in mind is this is working with a GPU. You kind of got to treat it like a game, and you got to have a nice GPU and computer system to still make these things run fast. But I'll just go ahead and pause and show you guys when this part's done. So we'll pause. Okay, so it's almost done with all the tiles. And yeah, the other thing slowing down some of the stuff in the video is that I'm recording the screen while doing it. So it's using up my GPU to do some of that stuff too. But once that's done, now I can do the save to disk part. Okay. Save full color to disk, and here's where it's going to stream it to a file with the ppm file type, and that also takes a long time for this version, but this is doing a really high res image. So let's save it to disk. We'll go to downloads, hit save, and if you watch it right here, in fact I'm going to go to the detail view, you can see it building the file up. So it's actually coming from the browser, streaming it to the disk and adding it all together. And that's why this particular technique can't really be a PNG file. It kind of only works, and it also won't have the resolution saved into it. But this will produce that 3200 DPI image, and it's going to be a couple of gigabytes. So I'm actually going to wait, and you can scroll down here and see it's only 4%, 4.5%. But this is just showing you guys where I'm pushing it to the extreme to do really high resolution outputs, and then we'll even work on optimizing this to run faster. We can make some desktop mode versions that might avoid some of this stuff, but it's also a lot of coding work. And that's what I was saying earlier in the video is I'm also learning how to do these things while doing them. You can have the AI copilot inside of your Visual Studio Code while you work on things. And you could try to do stuff like that. You could say, you know, like, in fact, even with this one, you could do copilot edits. I can have it using this file that's open. And I can say this positives or negatives mode. We can say, I want to change the way this works in my app, removing the original way positives negatives mode worked, and just have it so it flips the border color. I'll say border color and reg mark color around, whatever they are. Is that possible? And can you make the edits for me? And so then this will use the AI to scan your file, look through, and it's a little bit different than going in the other AI and chatting, but I usually have to like load the whole file in, have it look at it. And now right in VS Code, it's a little bit easier. So it says, I'll help you modify the code to simply swap the border color and edge marker color values when toggling the switch. Here's how they implement this change. And it tells you how, but it also just starts doing it. So add a new method to swap colors, modify the existing positive or negatives mode handler. This change will do this stuff. And so this whole workflow that I've had over the past couple of years has got me to this point where I didn't have to try to learn the programming languages down to every little way to do it at like a computer science level. I could work as an architect and engineer and basically designer and creatively solve certain problems along the way and iterate on it, but have the AI do the coding stuff for me. And then I can learn at my own pace and sort of watch and see what the things are and catch things here and there. So over the past 2 years, I've probably become adept and knowledgeable at a lot of different languages and a lot of the ways that all this stuff works. Oops. This is just an error here. Probably because I'm trying to do this stuff at the same time that I'm recording the screen and having this saved to the disk, right? Yeah, this is still growing that file, but I can work on it. It just says it's not responding. That's okay. We're just gonna not keep waiting. Yeah. And it's about 88% done. Applying the edits, 100%, and it lets me accept it or not. So we'll say accept, and there you go. Okay. So what I would do is then build this into, I'd save this file, and then I would build it out so I can test the app and then test and see if that change worked. But through this whole process of making changes, I'm really doing a lot of progress in a short amount of time. And that's because I'm, my own boss here. I'm the one that's just directing the whole thing. I don't have a big company or anything. It's just me. And I also don't have this isn't like I make a lot of income on this thing. It's really just a project that I'm getting going. And I think once I start showing more videos of it working and going right to print, it might, be a little bit more attractive to people that are just jumping in and want to, get into this stuff, whether they're at the professional level also or the beginner level. But that's the point of everything here, is I'm trying to make this a seamless process that anyone can do, just picking the right colors or even auto picking them, and having the computer handle all the other stuff. You just want to set your variables and set your settings. And so, I would say that even where the app is today, it's like 1% of the app that I want it to be. But again, you can get it. It's on sale right now for that half off, 50% off. But I'm really going to start putting things back up to just, always at full price. Very rarely going to do sales anymore. And that's because if you email me and you ask me, I can help you get started. I can find a way to work with whatever budget that you do have. And you just got to ask me about it. And I'm usually pretty generous about that. So let's take a look and see what the progress is on the save and export. It's only about 41%. So I'm going to pause the video and show you when it's done with this file. So you can just see just how crazy it is. We can get an extremely high-res file, 3200 DPI, out of this program if you wanted it, right? So and it could also just mean that you wanted to do like a 25-inch file at 1200 DPI, right? It would be the same sort of thing that you want to go into that. It would be that large of a file for it to process. But you could do this and then go do other stuff while this is processing. And it's all about having the workflow while you make all the changes and edits be fast in low res, real-time mode. And then when you're done making all your changes and edits and setting your variables and adjusting the colors and all that different stuff, then you just save and output the things so you can print them. And this is sort of like now combining aspects of color editing programs like Photoshop into things like separation software and then rip software all in one. And with the real-time thing, to me, it's just what I needed to do to be able to accomplish all the stuff I wanted, and not have it be like 1,000 different actions that you got to run this one for that point, and then you want to change the original art, you got to go back and then do it again, right? So let me just pause this and we'll show you the end point, sort of like a cooking show when it's done. Okay, so it's almost done, 99%, and you can see the file growing. It's almost 5 gigabytes, and 100%, and then it should combine these two, the CR swap file with this ppm, and it'll just become one ppm file once this is finished. And I'll just load it in Photoshop maybe to show you the resolution compared to the inch size that we might have to set it. And the reason it's such a giant file is basically ppm is an uncompressed pixel format. Okay. We can just scan it here and see once it's finished. Okay, there we go. So it's finished. So let's go to GIMP and then load it there. But GIMP is an open source desktop application for sort of a lot of the things Photoshop can do. And it can work with the image that's in ppm format. We can load it, and we could also save it out as a PNG if we wanted to work with it in Photoshop that way. But really, the stuff we'll get into in some other videos would be like how we're going to go and then just print these directly from your desktop, the image files, like when they're in the separations, so you wouldn't even need to do that. But using the ppm file is the way to get it to come out as a really, really high res like very large image. Okay, so let's go ahead and open that file. In fact, I'll just drag it in from here. And it might even take a little while to open it. It's gonna start using up some memory just for it to do that process. And so even that might take a minute. And at the conclusion of this video, what I'm going to do is go back and just show you a quick version of a file, way to open an image and just edit it, bring it right to some steps, output the steps at maybe 300 or maybe 600 DPI separation output really quick, and just the whole automation setup that I'm going for with this. But I want to show you what this would be. Let me go and look at the image size. We got to set it to 12.4 or 3200 DPI. Okay, so there's the file. If we go to image print size, we could see that, if we really had the size set here, we want to make sure we're not going to change anything. So 12.5 is, or what was it really, 12.42 right here. Copy that. Okay, so yeah, about 3200 DPI, or if I just set the DPI value to 3200, that'll change the rounding for that. So yeah, 12.420 about. So, and that shouldn't change anything about the image, okay? It's just you're changing the print size. And I can save this as, or hold on, let me cancel. We do File, Export As, select by file type, extension. We're going to do PNG file, export. It'll give us this, just do compression, export. And it's take a little bit to process, but then we can have a compressed PNG version file of it. And, we could have looked at it in GIMP also here. But I kind of want to show you in Photoshop, just opening it up as that final PNG file, and you can see how clean the dots would be, or just view it in Windows Photo Viewer. But what I'm going to do is we'll start doing another quick round separation image using this latest version. But what I'll do is probably have this put at the beginning of the video. You won't even see this part in the video. Or essentially, I'll do that once this is done, and then that'll be the end of the video. If you're watching it to this point, you would have already seen the quick separation using a regular piece of art and just coming in and treating it from like a basic beginning user standpoint, just trying to take advantage of all the automation in the app and doing everything all right within the app now. And I might even pause it while this is going so we don't have to drag on just talking. Okay, so that finished saving that file. I'm just going to close GIMP. We can discard this, and we'll go ahead and now look at this file. So now it's only 56 megabytes really as a compressed PNG, and that's because it's only 3 colors, maybe 4 or 5 if you count the white and black, and just pixel perfect art where it's, there's no blended or anti-alias colors, and that's what you want for like separations and this kind of art style. It's even taking a while to open it in the Windows Preview. I don't even know. It should work in Windows Preview, so we're just going to go ahead and see if that works. Okay, so there we go. Really clean halftones now. 3200 DPI. All right. I don't even know if you can get this out of some of the other RIP software and separation software at this point. Photoshop would even struggle with the actions running at that type of size. If I bring this into Photoshop, I don't know if it's saved to the resolution that we set in GIMP or not. We're just going to let it read it. And the thing is, it's not over. What size is it? Can't even, it's taking a while just to open it in Photoshop here. Okay. So image size. Yeah, so it's almost 40,000 pixels, 3200. And so this is the interesting thing. You can't even really save this as a PNG out of Photoshop. You have to do a PSB or TIFF file. JPEG would mess with the pixel colors a bit. So anyway, this is the conclusion of the video at this point. Just showing a sneak peek into all the different stuff I've been working on to get this program to be even better and easier to use, more combined, all in one. And again, that's why you get the free updates for life as I keep improving it, so people can use this version right now. But I'm going to conclude the video, and I'll make the part where it's going to be, I'll just conclude the video now. You'll see the other part in the beginning anyway. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.